Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Saide and you're watching my June Plan With Me video. As usual, we're starting off the video with a flip through of the previous month, and in this case we're going through the previous 2 months. You may have noticed, or you may have not, but I didn't post a May Plan With Me video, and I'll briefly explain why I didn't. I started a new job in April and it took a little bit more of my time and energy than I had thought. And I decided that recharging my energy and staying focused on my work was more important than posting a May Plan With Me. That may be a very unpopular thing to say, but I basically decided my real life was more important than something on social media. And I was also lacking a lot of inspiration for May. That was a factor. So I decided I wouldn't post a May Plan With Me video. Anyway, long story short, it's been 2 months in my new job and it's getting a lot better. I have more energy now and I think I've just settled in a bit more. So I'm back with the June Plan With Me video. And the theme I have come up with this month is mermaids. I actually wanted to do something ocean-y because, well, I've painted and drawn some ocean-related creatures or plants before, so I knew how to do that. And I figured I would use that in a plan with me. Now, you can see that in May I experimented a lot with using my bullet journal in different ways. I started to incorporate my work notes into my bullet journal because I've been carrying around 2 different journals, one for taking notes and one for my personal bullet journaling. And it really annoyed me because, well, I love my bullet journal and I want to use it. That's what it's for. So I've experimented a lot with different layouts and you will see which one I like the best because that's the one I'll be using for June. And another thing is that my bullet journal, which I've been using, this Leuchtturm, is almost full, and since it is a sort of new beginning for me with this new job, I just felt like using a new journal basically. Maybe I could have fit June in the other journal, but I had a new journal at hand already, so I'll be going into my new journal. And you can see here that I've already set up my future logs. I've kept them quite big because I find I really like having a real monthly overview. And here you can see that for the month of June, I've already put in some sketches just to provide a layout and just for me to know what I'm going to do. And before we actually start in the bullet journal, we're going to make scales. Because like I said, the theme this month is mermaids, and mermaids have scales. And I figured it would be really fun to have a sort of 3D scaly effect on my pages. So from some random magazines I had laying around, I ripped these colorful pages. And then from the colorful pages I cut strokes, and I have this corner thingy which makes rounded corners. And then I basically cut a rounded corner and then cut off a square. Does this make any sense? You can see what I'm doing. I just cut little pieces and round one of the corners so that it is a sort of scale. And when you stick them all over each other, you don't see the straight edges anymore. And then for some of these pages, I used metallic paint to give a sort of reflective effect, which I think is really cool. Now, if you've seen my previous Plan With Me videos, you know that I love watercoloring. And since it's a new journal, I thought, well, let's do what I always do and take my monthly opening spread and make a painting. And sometimes I do this on separate watercolor paper and sometimes I do it in my journal. So this month I decided to do it in the journal because I had the sketches in my journal already. But you'll see, I quickly discovered that this journal I'm using really does not take water well. It's actually quite disastrous because I really didn't go over with the watercoloring that many times, but still it bled through really bad, and I mean really bad. And also the paper got really curly and weird, so I just did a very quick background watercoloring, but in the future I will probably use my watercolor paper and stick that in, because I don't want to ruin the pages, especially the ones that are behind these pages, if that makes any sense. Or if you turn the page and there's bleeding, yeah, that's just so sad. Anyway, something else I got while I was gone for the last month is gouache paint. I've been following some different artists on YouTube, and one of my favorites was using gouache, which I've never heard of before. Well, what even is gouache? But apparently it's like a sort of mix between acrylic and watercolor. You can just go over as many times as you like, and it will cover something else underneath. I figured I would use it in combination with my watercoloring, because I can just do a background in watercolor and then paint over with the gouache. And I think that's a really great technique actually, because I can just do whatever with watercoloring. It doesn't really matter. And then stick something on top, and you don't have to leave all these empty spaces that you have to do when you want to do everything in watercoloring, because you can't make it lighter again. You can only make something darker in watercolor. So yeah, I'm really happy about getting the gouache and using it this way. And I think it's a real time saver as well, because it doesn't take so much time during the watercoloring step, because you don't have to worry so much. You can just paint over it with the gouache. So that's what I'm doing. So what I came up with for my opening spread is just an ocean with some water plants, no coral reef, something like that. And then some mermaids. It's very simple actually, but I think that's what I was going for this month. Something simple that makes me happy. That's all I really want. Now we're going to the monthly overview, and here I usually stick with a very similar layout, just some basic squares, because this works best for me. So that's what I did this month as well. And then I did a mermaid tail on the right in watercolor again. And because I had learned that going over many times did not work in this journal, I figured, okay, I'd go over only 2 times maybe. But it still bled through quite a bit. So I'm really unhappy about that. But I love how the tail turned out, actually. I used 2 different tones of blue and then a gold metallic, which I think makes it really pretty. And then I used the gouache again on the left to make some plants or reef or whatever. And since the previous page bled through a little, I figured I would do some sort of bubbles or like air bubbles. And it would kind of bleed in, it would kind of match the bleeding of the previous page, so that it almost seems like the bleeding is part of this page. Which I'm not sure if it really covers it all up, but well, I figured I'd just do as if that was planned. And then to match it, I also put some bubbles on the right, just because it was kind of empty on that side. And of course I always erase all the pencil marks, fill in the numbers. Now for a habit and mood tracker, I decided to use the full spread for both trackers. So not one half for the habit tracker and one half for the mood tracker, but just have them both on the entire spread. And here I have a drawing of a mermaid? I'm not sure. Is there a difference between a male or female mermaid? Do you call the male mermaid a merman? I'm not sure. Anyway, I figured that I could use the scales in the fin for days of the month and then color them according to my mood. And the colors I'm using are the Tombows you can see laying on the left right now. I'll put the numbers down below of these Tombows. But I believe these are included in the pastel Tombow Dual Brush Pens set. So if you have that set, you have these markers. They're actually the exact ones that are included in that set. And I also decided to keep this kind of simple and not too complicated, because I think it would distract me from the trackers and I don't really want that to happen. Now here I'm finally using these scales I created. Now this is in very high speed, but what I'm doing is just using a glue stick and then taking one of the scales and gluing it in there, and then I layer them on top of each other so that they form one scaly part. And I think it looks really fun. It's super colorful and I really love the 3D effect these scales give off. And again, I'm using some of the gouache paint to paint some plants and coral reefs. And I used a picture or some pictures I found on Pinterest of different reefs or different plants, and I just took that as a reference. And this is my weekly spread. I'm not sure if I've mentioned that, but so I put in the days of the week. And I figured it could use a little bit more because it was kind of empty. So I decided to stick down this dark colored paper, which would then serve as a weekend to-do list or whatever I feel like using it for. Just to have a little bit more decorative effect, I guess. And I used this paint marker to write on top of this dark colored paper because of course black wouldn't show up as well. And I do have some white jelly markers, but for some reason they don't work for me, or very rarely they work for me. So I love using the paint marker because that one pretty much always works. And of course I put a little calendar down below to know the days of the week. Well, I know the days of the week, but to know the dates, like the actual dates. Now this is something different I haven't shown you before, but like I said, I've been experimenting a lot with incorporating work notes or work-related appointments. So I reserved space for my weekly spreads, and then after the weekly spreads I have these 2 pages for notes. This idea I have from another bullet journalist on YouTube. I think she's called Plant-Based Bride. And she does bullet journals for her husband, where he gets a sort of weekly spread, but it also incorporates pages for notes. And I thought that was a really great idea, and I would use it as well, because that's what I've been trying to do. And having them through each other, or having one spread for both my personal stuff and my work stuff, didn't really work for me. It got too messy or it lacked space. So I figured I would make a separate spread for those notes, but still in the same month. And also in the same theme as the rest of my bullet journal, because just having all these colorful stuff makes me really happy. And I want to be happy at work, why shouldn't I? So again, I used all my skills to put down a colorful border in the corner. And I think it's really great. And then, of course, I used the gouache to get some plants and coral reefs in there as well. And I have to say, it's now the 2nd week of June, so I've been using this spread and it's really great. I really love having it in my bullet journal. I still have to get over a little bit of shame when I'm meeting with someone and I'm writing something down in this very colorful journal, but well, what the heck, I like writing it down in here. It shouldn't matter. Maybe if I would have a really personal meeting, I would maybe just get lined paper. But for my personal reminders and just stuff I have to do or I need to write down, I think it's really great to use my bullet journal because my bullet journal makes me happy and I want to look at it. So here's an overview of the pages I've made for June. The overview is really simple, but I really love it. Oh, here you can see I added a drop shadow to my monthly calendar. And of course I also filled out the moods and the habits I want to track. And for my notes section, I actually added a few colored lines with these same Tombow Dual Brush Pens, just to give it a bit of extra color. If you want to see how these pages turn out in the end or how I end up using them, you can always check out my Instagram because they will show up over there. And that's the end. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope I wasn't too all over the place. And I would like to thank you very much for watching. Leave a like if you liked the video. And I hope to see you guys another time. Bye bye!